All right, welcome back to another Noob Spearo podcast episode. My name is Shrek, and I interview spearfishing experts, authorities, characters from around the world, trying to extract their tips, their great knowledge, their lessons learned, and make it 100% actionable for you guys, the frothers listening to this podcast. Today it's Helen and Pierre. They're a couple in the UK, Alnwick-based filmmakers, highlighting Northeast UK. It's an area you may not have ever heard of or considered in the realm of spearfishing, but they've made a really, really cool documentary called Triggerfish. This podcast, we sort of delve into, I guess, some of their skills with regards to, you know, their ability to combine really sort of buttery cinematic footage with a really compelling narrative and really sort of unpack the spearfishing lifestyle in that part of the world. It's really cool. I really like these two. They're thoughtful people. Helen Burt, Pierre Malion, and really interesting backgrounds. So I really enjoyed, I guess, talking to them about the foraging aspect of it as well, and how that's all part of it. And these guys are sort of, I guess, they're part of the spearhead that's bringing this lifestyle back to the planet, where we're sort of reconnecting with ourselves, reconnecting with nature. A really cool discussion, and obviously that's why we called the episode Reconnecting with Our Food. I think it goes beyond that, though. So I hope you enjoyed today's interview with Helen and Pierre. Before we get there, I have got a couple of reviews, and this one from Jeremy. He was on the Mackay Hardline and Beyond Elizabeth E2 trip that we ran last year, intermediate course and charter. It will happen again this year by the looks of things. If you are interested and you want to be on the immediate notify list, go to spearfishingcourses.com.au/interested. Anyway, Jeremy says, 5 stars. Was lucky to be on their first Mackay Hardline trip on the Elizabeth E2. I was nervous about the trip being their first trip and teething problems that naturally come. The first day ran with little or no problems at all, and the rest of the trip was very much the same. Everyone was very like-minded and there for the same thing, shoot fish and enjoy all the perks that comes with being in and around the ocean. Shrek and the crew were great. Super happy I pulled the trigger and went on this charter. If you guys are interested, again, go to spearfishingcourses.com.au/interested. Joe chucked in a podcast review. He says, 5 stars. Hey, Shrek. I've been listening to your podcast for the last few months. Awesome work. Such a great listen. You talk so articulately, and I have learned heaps. Every time I start frothing and can't get out, I put your podcast on while I'm working around the house, and it quenches something. Haha, legend. Yeah, it was a great review. Thanks for that, Joe. I love the reviews, wherever they come. Obviously, Noob Spearo on Google is starting to attract more and more, but if you just punch in the 5-star review on Spotify, it all makes a difference. Helps us go up the thing. I was going to say to you too, if you are on Spotify and you listen to the Noob Spearo podcast, I just discovered this for myself the other day. You can hit a little notify button, and it will make sure that any new episodes get prioritized at the top of your Spotify feed. That way you know when a new one drops. There's also a similar feature in Apple, but I know a lot of you guys are listening on Spotify these days, so it's rad. Hey, one more quick review. This one from Seth. He says, 99 Spearo Recipes is hands down the best seafood cookbook I've seen. I've done about 4 recipes from it now, and they're so simple but next level flavor. The Noob Spearo podcast is a must for anyone that's into their spearing. That was actually a review written on Daniel Mann's video review of 99 Spearo Recipes, and he just wrote that in the YouTube comments. I just wanted to highlight it because it's just nice to hear what other people think of it all. You know, like you can make stuff till the cows come home. Back in the day, it was just mum listening to the podcast. Now there's a whole bunch of you legends like and love and sharing the podcast. I really appreciate it. Hey, let's get into today's episode with Helen and Pierre, reconnecting with our food. Here we go. Astard.co, roller pole spears that will make your head spin. These things, the flagship Astard roller pole spear, is crafted with the absolute highest quality standards to meet the demands of any Spearo. 2 lengths of one spear, 1.8 meter for rock hopping, 3.75 for out wide. Check it out on the Noob Spearo YouTube channel. You can watch a full video with me reviewing the pole spear and even taking it out for a spin. It's got exceptional grip and smooth loading. It features a resting hook, and this gives you stealthy half-loaded operation, which prevents fish or reduces fish from being spooked as easily during that loading process. It's equipped with an awesome slip tip, stainless steel leader and dynamic cord, built with versatility and durability in mind, only made from the absolute best and most premium materials. The Astard roller pole spear delivers unmatched performance, combining functionality, durability, and tradition. Check it out, astard.co. Use the code Noob Spearo. Free shipping anywhere on the planet. At least go and have a look at me going through the learning curve at the Noob Spearo YouTube channel and get a good look at it at the Astard roller pole spear. I think that video is called An Ogre with a Roller Pole Spear. Check it out on YouTube. Today's Noob Spearo podcast is brought to you in partnership with Adreno. Live it, breathe it with the world's largest dive store. Huge range of equipment, always growing, always changing. They are the world's largest dive store. They are available just about everywhere. They have hassle-free returns, massive range of equipment, price match guarantee, and you can check them out online. You can even use the code Noob Spearo to save $20 on every purchase over $200 at adreno.com.au. Check them out. Boom. Absolutely mint customer service. Specialty spearfishing equipment, elite spear gun performance components, unforgettable reliability. You want to find out where to buy this? Punch in neptonics.com and shop at the best US spearfishing store, neptonics.com. Free shipping to the lower 48 when you spend over $199, and you can use the code NOOB10 to save 10%. This is your chance to save dosh. Buy deadly good gear and experience A-grade customer service. Will you shop at the best? Visit neptonics.com. Use the code NOOB10 to start shooting 35-pound muttons tomorrow. Actual performance may differ from advertisement. Please refer to terms and conditions to see if you're eligible to be a legend like Shrek. This advertisement was not even endorsed by Jerry and the team at Neptonics. Hoorah and God bless America. G'day guys. I'm joined by a couple of filmmakers from Alnwick today, and they've created a captivating film. It's a pair of absolute legends. It's Helen and Pierre. They're joining me right now from the UK. We were just laughing about time zone differences. Welcome to the Noob Spearo podcast, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you for having us on.
Cool. So, Triggerfish. Like, one of the biggest things that jumped out at me straight away was the topside footage, like these broken old castles, crazy cliff lines. And then the coastline's got an appeal all of its own. There's like a lot going on between the seal footage and the birds, and then obviously the kelp forest. There's quite a lot of color. Yeah, what a beautiful film you guys have created. How long does it go for? It's about 10 minutes, isn't it?
I think it's about 6:50.
Yeah, about 6-7 minutes, something along that. Yeah.
But it's a polished work, that one. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So we wanted to get something really, we're both filmmakers and photographers by trade and hobby and passion. And we wanted to get something out there that was really kind of puts our foot into the game with a really, really strong film. So that's been like our summer project that we've been working on to then kind of get Tide to Table, which is the brand that we're starting off the back of it, kind of out there.
And we're quite new to the area, so the coastline for us is really exciting as well. It's a really underrated part of the UK, but there's so many castles and so many beautiful isolated coastal spots. So it's been very inspiring, which has been really fun.
As filmmakers, having that fresh perspective on an area, is that actually a useful thing? Because sometimes when you've lived in an area for a long time, you almost take stuff for granted, and you get, you almost stop to appreciate some of it. You don't realize what it looks like from an outside perspective.
For sure. And definitely from like a spearfishing perspective. Like we actually met out in Canada. That's how we met, and was freediving and spearfishing out there, as well as doing other things like skiing and mountain biking. And out in Canada, people tend to have more of an outdoorsy way of life compared to the UK. So getting that exposure to like the outdoorsiness and kind of bring it to the UK, and then coming to somewhere like Northumberland where you probably have only a handful of people that actually go spearfishing. It's kind of eye-opening because we see like a playground that's kind of been untouched. Although we've got the North Sea, which is super cold, very like tough conditions. But if you can get past all of that and adapt to it, then there's loads to discover and see, not just from a spearfishing perspective, but like you've seen with the seals and the birds, and it's really quiet as well, which is unique.
Even snorkeling. Like, I am very fresh. Like, I just started snorkeling this year.
Wow.
So I just found that perspective under the water. So incredible. I felt so fortunate because barely any people get in the water along this coastline, and I would just like stare at kelp in nice light for hours.
And then she's gone from going completely fresh to coming down and diving down with me and filming me at horizon level with an underwater camera.
Yeah.
So you've really come on. Really, really well.
100% you have, Helen. And like for a photographer or videographer, like the interplay between those two mediums and, you know, that top 10 meters is a real sweet spot with light and, you know, like, but it adds a real challenge, doesn't it? How did you find taking your photography skills above water and taking them below? Was there much of a learning sort of journey there?
I would say I had a few meltdowns with large swells and focusing. Definitely a learning curve, and the visibility is not always on point in the UK. So we just got in as much as we physically could over the summer, didn't we? To just try and like collate as many shoot days as we could, and then took the best of the bunch. But what would you say your biggest like underwater photography filmmaking learning
was from this summer, or just in general?
I guess
you have to kind of like, well, when you're in the water, you're constantly moving. You're having to think about breath hold. You're thinking about focus. And the thing is as you get down, the light dissipates. Well, it reduces a lot. So you have to like really compensate for the amount of light that you're going to get down there. Sometimes you have to use artificial lights attached to the camera rig, which I've actually got here, which is just the underwater camera rig. It's just like a Sea Fox one. It's not super expensive or anything, but you can attach lights to it. It's like a glorified GoPro casing, basically.
So if you're introducing like a big strobe light off that, are you having to bring more external power supply to juice that thing up? Because so with for video, I've just been using constant video lights. So you can get do you know the brand Orca Torch? That's what I've been using. Yeah. Using Orca Torch, they're using their video lights and then having that as like a constant light. And also use it a lot for hole hunting, because a lot of the fishing, the spearfishing around here is hole hunting because it's like cold water. The fish are in small crevices. So it's like learning to adapt to try and do all of those things at the same time. Yeah, I watched the way you guys sort of interplayed with kelp and cave country. Like, there's a real wicked scene with that sort of framed up pollock in this sort of a bombied up area. Like, that was really cool. And you can tell you guys are professional filmmakers. The way the footage is graded and the intermix of the B-roll and, like, you know, providing sort of broader context for your subject matter. Like, it's really well done. I feel like I got an inkling of the vision for Tide to Table as well. Like, you share a stat at the start of the video. It says 70% of the seafood caught in the UK is exported, and we see this trend, this broader trend in a lot of Western countries with well-managed fisheries. We export all of our best stuff, and then often we're importing rubbish from countries where they don't actually manage their fisheries very well. Is this part of the passion that drives your guys' initiative, Tide to Table? Yeah,
for sure. That's like probably the piece that's mainly the main driver of us creating Tide to Table, because it is a thing where, like you're saying, a lot of Western countries, they'll export the best stuff and then import the not so good stuff. And it's not to do with so much the consumer side as an issue, but it's more like on a whole, we're not fully exposed to everything that's like on our doorstep. So in the UK, the main ones are, I think the statistic is we export 70% of the seafood we actually have off our catch on our coastline, and we import 80%, and the 80% consists of tuna, salmon, prawns, and cod. Cod being the only one that is actually within our own fishery.
Yeah, and it's an offshore fishery, deep water stuff.
Yeah, right.
I feel like there's a bit of a personal conflict with us, because me and Pierre, he's got such a rich food education growing up with French and Chinese parents.
Yeah.
And I am just used to slapping batter on a fish. So like it's been an absolute discovery for me to understand this,
what I'm hearing. Sorry, Helen. What I'm hearing is that Pierre's doing a lot of the cooking and you're doing the dishes. Is that
the last 2 nights has been like that.
Sorry, he's actually a professional dishy too. So.
Oh yeah, I've been a dishy in the past.
I interrupted you. Sorry, Helen. I had to make a man. I interrupted you. Sorry, Helen. Can you carry on with your train of thought?
That's okay. That's good fun.
So you were talking about his.
So he was saying there's all this fish in the UK that gets exported, and it's actually like it's just an education thing because these things are treated as such a delicacy in France and Spain, say, but completely disregarded in the UK. But a lot of it is just like, well, personally, when I'm given this seafood, I don't know how to prepare it. Like, I don't know what I'm doing with it. I don't know what it's going to become because I've just not been exposed to it. So I guess the driver is to like bridge that gap.
Nice.
And create really cool content on how to appreciate the seafood that we have right next to us.
I think there's so much opportunity for that. I think one of the initiatives you guys may have mentioned, I'm not sure if you directly mentioned it, was potentially like creating a foraging book. Was that one of the things you're looking at? Yeah, fish forage feast book.
Yeah. Do you want to talk more about that?
Yeah, I guess both of us being in service-based businesses for a while, we're just really excited to get passionate about something and make products. And I guess self-publishing is kind of an easy way to dip our toe a little bit because we both take loads of photos. It would probably be a photo-heavy book in thirds. So one third would be fishing and spearfishing, 1/3 would be coastal foraging, and then 1/3 would be feasting, so coastal recipes.
I love this.
Local to us. So yeah,
I love it.
That's the plan.
There's a couple of good books I can point you guys to that are already out there. So you've got some reference material and then also a way to differentiate yourselves. Have you seen 99 Spearo Recipes? Have you guys had a good look at that?
Yeah, I've seen it. Obviously, that's your book, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I'm pointing it out more just to show, like, if you guys wanted a hand with creating your thing, and I have printing contacts, and we largely crowdsourced all of the recipes, and then even crowd edited it to an extent, So the whole book was a crowd project, and coordinating that was a labor of love. But that's another one. And then in the UK, you've also got Ian Donald's Guide to Foraging in the UK. Have you guys had a look at that book?
That's really funny because I actually bought that book because I learn really well through books.
Yeah, me too.
And I went through it. I loved it. And for Pierre's birthday, my dad bought him that book and my brother bought him that book.
Yeah, so we've got three copies sent in 1 month. But,
and that was kind of the thinking as well, that there was maybe a little gap in the
there definitely is.
Variety.
Yeah.
But I love that book. It's really, really straightforward and so helpful.
It's a ripper book, like really well done, particularly in that part of the world. But obviously, like when you sort of see what's already there, you know what's going to be complementary to it. Like I tried to do the same with 99 Spearo Recipes. Like Josh Nilland had created the One Fish Cookbook and the Whole Fish Cookbook. Have you guys ever seen those?
No, haven't seen those. No.
Okay. Well, like he created those books, and like some of the big ideas out of the books were like how when you go into a butcher shop and you buy beef, if you buy a chuck and then you buy like a ribeye, they're two very different cuts of meat and you need to treat them differently. But with fish, we all just treat fish like fish. We throw some batter on it. Yeah. And it's like, like there's all different cuts on a fish that are suitable for different modalities of cooking. Different fishes actually prefer different modalities of cooking. Like an oily fish is just going to go good in a smoker and so on. Anyway, his ideas were amazing. So I just thought, how can I make it a bit more practical though for, everyday Spearo type people? And so that was sort of the focus of that book. With your book, with Fish, Forage and Feast book, I'm sure it's a great working title. I love it. What's the vision and what do you want to achieve with it? You said a third spearfishing and then a third foraging and then terrestrial hunting stuff as well, or?
Yeah, I think the idea would be like we kind of acknowledge, well, if you take Northumberland as a county, there's probably about less than 10 of us that spearfish. And out of the 10 of us, there's probably like a few of us that get some fish. Yeah. So we're very aware that it's not super, super accessible to go out spearfishing. Yeah. So we wanted to create something that is good for the Spearos, but also is accessible to everyday people that just have a love for the sea or want to just get a little bit more invested, like dipping their toe. So whether it's going rock pooling, going crabbing, or even if it's something like maybe they're into fishing, but they haven't collected their own bait before. Doing those small steps to reconnect people, to get them to learn about what's in front of them, so that we appeal to the hardcore spearfishermen, we appeal to the people that want to dip their toe in. And then if you don't want to do any of that, you can at least get some recipes or get some ideas and see how, even if you don't source something yourself, you can see how you can sustainably or kind of more ethically or naturally get produce to be able to cook.
No, I love it. I think it's a cool idea, Pierre. So like Helen, obviously like, like you've sort of touched on the fact that there's a huge amount of seafood that's imported and a lot that's exported. One of the things that it sounds like your book will do is sort of reconnect people with what is actually readily available in their own area. Like I heard Pierre mention in the video Triggerfish, like go to your local fishmonger, even if you're not a Spearo, they have a lot of locally sourced stuff. Is that sort of, you're going to find readily available stuff from their local fishmonger as well as like readily available foraging materials as well, I'm assuming?
Yeah. It's a kind of celebration of the fishmonger as well.
Yeah, cool.
And just getting everyone to go as close to source as they can, and just gaining an understanding of where something comes from and why it might be good or bad to eat it is the overall ethos.
Yeah, because the biggest thing that gets lost in what we eat doesn't matter whether it's meat or seafood or foraged mushrooms, it's the journey that we've lost.
Yeah.
And by going to like an independent butcher's or a fishmonger, you can still try and get that reconnection with the journey, because you can ask about where the fish has come, when it was landed, is it in season, and then just reconnect people with appreciating what they have. It's like if you were to buy a piece of fish from the supermarket or you were to catch it yourself, naturally, because you've understood the journey that fish has gone through, you kind of appreciate it, and in the back of your mind it tastes better than the one that's come from the supermarket, even if it's the same thing. So even if someone goes to the fishmongers and speaks to John about the latest monkfish and has a great conversation with where it was caught and how it was prepared, then that person will probably more likely appreciate what they're going to eat.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, that's really cool. I like that. Like, food does taste better when it's prepared with love. I think part of that is like understanding the story behind the food and where it comes from. And like it's so entertaining to do that. And I'm hoping that we see more restaurants start like with this sort of theme. And we are sort of seeing it. Unfortunately, a lot of them are beyond the price points of many. So it seems to be the upper echelon, your upper middle class and beyond that are actually able to afford to eat out at these restaurants. But if we can do it at a grassroots level and just, it's almost like going a step beyond a restaurant and just being fully involved in that process ourselves. It seems like a massive passion for you guys. Like, you guys come from this adventure sports background. Talk to me about, like, obviously you've got your French-Chinese heritage, which are two powerhouse culinary sort of, origins for a lot of the food that we see. And Helen, you've got the battered stuff. It's a bit like Australia and New Zealand get given the same stick, so I'm tongue in cheek, Helen.
Okay.
But like going through this adventure sport thing, has this passion traveled all the way through along with it, or is this something that you've rediscovered as you guys have got older or met? Or
just to touch on your last point, this summer I have felt like an absolute queen, like eating lobsters on the beach. Like that is an unreal experience. Like bypassing the restaurants. It's so amazing being able to eat food like that. That's a delicacy on the beach next to where it's come from. Yeah. But and that's why I think spearfishing is like I am very fresh, but I think it's such a cool sport because it's not only you have to be really healthy to do it, and it's a real challenge for your body, but you are sourcing food at the same time. Like I can't think of any other sport where it combines those factors.
Yeah, and as well, the thing is I'm from like my roots are my granddad was into fishing, my dad was into fishing, and I'm into fishing. And I started off like rod and line fishing. I still do it a lot, and that's how I learned. And when doing that, you catch some fish, you put some back, then you keep what's worth keeping. But the thing is with spearfishing, as soon as you start shooting fish, you almost have to get interested in cooking. You have to, because when you're taking that leap to actually get your prize, then you have to respect what you're catching. So what I love about it is you have no choice but to respect and create something with what you've caught.
All of these kelp forests in your film, is any of it edible? Have you guys played around much with eating seaweed, kelp, etc.? Some of the more coastal foraging type stuff.
So we haven't this summer, but we've been working with a chef actually who was in a Michelin star restaurant recently. We were doing a photo shoot with him, and I brought him over some fish that I'd shot, and he made some some ceviche with it, and we photographed it. And some of the things that he was putting in his dishes, he was using like some wild like river trout that we have like lots of like really good trout rivers around here, and he had some really fresh wild trout that he mixed in with some seaweed from around St. Mary's Lighthouse, which is just north of Newcastle, and he just foraged and collected and dried it out. So there is loads of seaweed and loads of like, I guess, vegetative seafood that is edible around here as well. But this summer we haven't put a huge emphasis on it, but it's something that we want to incorporate into the foraging side of things, because also there's those times where you can't actually go out spearfishing because of the weather or conditions. So maybe that's the alternative, is to get the salad.
I think that's a big, like in the UK, it seems like, and other parts of the world, like temperate, like heavily swell affected and viz affected areas, like they do seem to marry spearfishing with line fishing, coastal foraging, terrestrial hunting. It kind of seems to become a lifestyle for some people. Some guys that listen to my show just go spearfishing, but other people are kind of like people of the land in all respects. Like they get it right into this thing, and they go full sourcing everything they can themselves. You know, like they start having their own chickens, and you know, so I can see quite easily how it could happen to you, but it's very much a process of gradual acquisition, isn't it? Like learning foraging, spearfishing, everything. Like the journey to mastery of any of this stuff seems to just take a long, long time. And I think that for me, that's part of the appeal. Is it similar for you guys?
Yeah, I'd 100% agree, 100%. And like we're talking about when we moved here about getting chickens, getting livestock, and not just the seaside of things. We want to get as many like natural foods as we can and try and be really like conscious of it, but not in like, well, hopefully not in like a really annoying hipster way, but like in just a way just like about
said every annoying hipster ever.
Just about doing it and just being as connected and as natural as possible with it. And I think, like you were saying, you get some spearos which are literally they just spearfish and that's it.
Yeah.
But we'd say we're more of like a more like less niche but more rounded.
Yeah.
And with that, I feel like that's given me loads of skills and knowledge for being able to adapt to my spearfishing.
Yeah.
So for instance, like here you have a lot of cod on our shores, but when you go free diving, you'll never see a cod. You'll never see them just swimming out and about, but there's tons of them. So there'll be spots where I'll go out on my kayak and fish and catch like 10 or 15 cod. It seems like there's like loads under the kayak. And when you go to those spots, you don't see a single one.
Wow.
And it's because the thing is, it's like if I hadn't been kayak fishing, I wouldn't have known these spots held loads of cod. But what doesn't match up is you just don't see them. And then you realize that all of the fish that you're actually catching, you're like jigging near the bottom, and these are fish that are sitting in holes coming out to go and take the bait. So that's what led me to then go torch hole hunting. And that's where you realize all the fish in the day, they're just all hiding in their little holes, watching and peeping out. So I think that's where like the mix of like traditional fishing and spearfishing has really helped.
Yeah, cool. And I guess I was very naive as to food processes until we met in British Columbia in Canada. And then we spent a summer on Vancouver Island, actually with a research centre who were measuring the sea lice on salmon. So understanding the difference between wild salmon and farm salmon opened my eyes to the start of the learning process of like where my food comes from. And
that's cool too to hear, Helen, because that's your aha moment. That's where you sort of, like that. And that's has a cool appeal all of its own. Spear Ready is a 50-day training program designed to get you in shape to make the most of your spearfishing. It's a 50-day cross-training program designed to put you in shape and not feel like you don't have any breath hold when you arrive on your trip. If you can go spearfishing during the week during this program, you can even subtract something from the workout. I can guarantee that no other prep program is saying that. Check it out at noobspearo.com/spearready. There are always frothers training and trying to prepare and get in shape. It's a great way to stay motivated and do it together with our private Facebook group. Check it out again, noobspearo.com/spearready.
As soon as I say anything about freediving safety, I can hear the eye rolls from across the podcast. In fact, you're probably thinking, but Ted, I've never had a problem. I don't push myself. I'm in tune with my body. I know my limits. What is 100% true about that statement is you can always say that statement unless you died from a blackout. You've probably heard of someone in your local waters that died from a blackout, and they used to be able to say the same thing, and then they blacked out and they died, and they can no longer say that. That's the way that argument works. My name is Ted Hardy. I'm the founder of Immersion Freediving, and my goal is to do more to stop fatalities from shallow water blackout than any other person on the planet. I never liked the idea that the information on how to not kill yourself while spearfishing was gated behind the paywall of a freediving course. What if there's no instructor within 200 miles? What if you can't afford a course? What if you can't get time off work? So sad, too bad, you just don't get access to the information needed to dive safely? That's why I created freedivingsafety.com. It's a free course that will teach you how to reduce your risk of having a blackout and teach you how to save your buddy's life if they had a blackout. Dive safe out there. It's not even that hard, especially when you can learn for free at freedivingsafety.com.
Noob Spearo's partner, Killshot Spear Guns, bring more to you than just wicked reliable timber spear guns. They also make awesome merch. Check it out at killshotspearguns.com. There's an awesome range of trucker hats, beanies, bucket hats, and more at killshotspearguns.com. Check out Depth Charge Shelters while you're there. Based in the Isla Morada, the Florida Keys, the Killshot Spear Guns team are a wicked, passionate bunch. Proud partners of the Noob Spearo podcast. Check them out at killshotspearguns.com. So, when you were living over there, did you guys eat sea cucumber? And because like they have their own kind of weird foraging, spearfishing relationship in that part of the world too. Did you get to partake in that side of it? Were you diving there?
So I did. Okay. And the thing is out there is, well, you came for like a few swims.
Yeah.
But it's cold, very cold. And I had like an open cell double 7mm wetsuit, and then across the chest I had one of those wetsuits where you had the long johns, so it almost like doubles up as like 14mm in the chest.
Yeah.
And I had one of those because I wanted to film the salmon runs in the rivers, and then the water that you get from there is glacial melt water a lot of the time, so it's just extra cold. So it's not super approachable given that you hadn't really done a huge amount, but I was spearfishing out there and shot some cabezons, shot some rockfish, some starry flounders. We ate very well. We ate lots and lots of seafood.
Nearly ate cabezon roe.
Yeah, nearly ate cabezon roe as well. Do you know about cabezon?
Tell me about it.
So cabezon is like
I know the
in the
species.
Pacific North. They have it in the Pacific Northwest between like California and Alaska. They have a fish called a cabezon. It's like a lingcod. The one that we caught was about 3-4 kilos that is shot, and it was an amazing fish, and the flesh is blue, and it's really, really unique. And then when I opened it up, I found the roe, and there was like a huge handful of roe, and I was like, "Oh, that looks good. That's basically like caviar." So put this aside, put it in a bowl in the fridge, and we prepared the cabezon. Helen also used it to make a pie, like a fish pie, and it turned the whole inside of the pie blue.
Yeah,
and it was a bit scary, but it was really cool. And because we were living with marine biologists, and we told them that we had gotten the roe, and they literally ran to our like accommodation that we were in, and they were like, "Don't eat the roe, don't eat the roe," and we didn't know why. And they were telling us actually that the roe is the only part that's toxic of the fish.
Wow!
Because what the cabezon does is once it lays its eggs, it has like a poisonous and toxic membrane that it leaves on the eggs. And the cabezon is a really territorial and guarding fish, where it will lay the eggs, and then it will sit and live with the eggs until they hatch or whatever they do. And the poisonous membrane is on the roe, so that I assume so that predators don't go for it. But
that's was very cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Pretty cool.
And that's another thing that transposes into the land too, because like fruit and vegetables have these same protective mechanisms to prevent predation as well. Like this is where allergic reactions, or like the what do you call it? Like a histamine response. These food has these inbuilt protection mechanisms. It's really cool, but it's a very gradual journey. But like, I'm glad you guys didn't eat it. How toxic is it to humans?
What was that?
How toxic is it to humans?
I think it can be deadly.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And we were
deadly,
very far from.
Yeah, but we should have had the signs. It was bright blue, like really as blue as your microphone.
And what about the blue pie, Helen? Did that go down well? Did it taste all right?
Yeah, it went down pretty well. It was part of Pie Day, where everyone makes pie. You compete for the best pie. I feel like it would have won, but there was a bear that had been shot by the Indigenous community on the island because it was a problem bear. And a guy there had made like a slow cooked bear pie.
And that one. That was really good. Yeah, but we had fresh cabezon and fresh bear. We married it all together for like a pie off.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, and you never think about me at cabezon.
That'd be cool to be in that community. So you're with these marine biologists, so sciencey type people, and then you're eating foraging and hunted food, and then you're all having like culinary cook-off comps. Like that would be like a wet dream. Everyone would love that.
Yeah. It was. We were really lucky with that. It was brilliant. It was a place called Guilford Island, which is the second biggest island in British Columbia after Vancouver Island. And there's only 80 inhabitants, I believe, on that island.
Wow.
And off our dock that we literally were living in little like makeshift shanty houses. There's a hydro system with the local water. There's a filtration system. There's everything. There's solar panels. There's a solar shower and a dock. And just off the end of the dock, you had like Steller sea lions. You had whales that were coming in.
Yeah, humpbacks bleaching.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, didn't catch any, but you get halibut there as well. And yeah, it was really surreal. So you saw the bears on the coastline and then the whales right next to them.
They call them Kodiaks, but they're a grizzly bear, aren't they? They're grizzly.
We had black bears where we were. I think there were grizzlies, but we didn't see any.
Yeah, we didn't see any.
Yeah.
And the black bears, that was the problematic one. So it's like raiding people's trash and maybe becoming a threat to the community sort of thing.
Yeah.
But in this situation, the bear was breaking into the houses we were living in.
Yep.
So that one was a pie.
That'd be scary. I've heard like a lot of my understanding of this part of the world comes from Meat Eater. Have you guys seen their stuff?
No,
we
I haven't seen it.
Well, they do one near Vancouver Island, and that's where I knew about the sea cucumbers and obviously eating bear as well, because bear is part of the pig family, and everyone sort of thinks you're weird, like it's just some trophy thing when you shoot bear, but like a lot of people eat them, particularly the oil, I believe, is like an amazing part of harvesting it. Yeah. So what was the taste profile of the bear pie?
I'd say it was quite rich. It was, how to describe it? It's like if you have like slow cooked beef rib in red wine, but almost a bit more metallic.
It had a bit of a tang.
Yeah, a bit of a tang, but a good tang.
Okay.
I don't want to use the word gamey because I feel like everyone says that.
Yeah.
But it's like a darker, rich brushed beef.
Yep. Okay, cool.
It was really, really good.
And Helen, so like, did you guys eat a lot of salmon while you're shooting these films and stuff?
We didn't eat a lot of salmon. We ate loads of rockfish, actually. Yeah. Because that was really fun. We just go out in the canoe, and every time you'd put a line in, you'd catch rockfish, which were really cool, really tasty. And then they had a garden on site, so they were really amazing meals, but not salmon. No.
The salmon was more. So we were there over the summer, and then the salmon run is more in the like fall season.
Okay.
So we did have salmon whilst we were in Canada, but it was mainly when I was like fly fishing or like spinning in the rivers with the 50 other people down the river, trying to get a few salmon as they run through. But that's amazing to see the salmon runs, the amount of fish that comes all in one go, and they all push as like a unit going up. It's really incredible.
The salmon farming, did you want to talk briefly about what you observed and what you kind of learned? Like from what I understand, when they farm them, it's the sort of the waste, the bio waste that comes out of the bottom of their cage or their habitat that just destroys all the benthos. And then obviously like there's disease that seems to enter in, and like they look for this current oxygen rich water so that less of that happens. But talk to me about what you guys observed and learned, because I only know that's pretty much what I know.
Yeah, that is correct. For the case of British Columbia, where we were, they do tend to keep the pens in places where there's a lot of running water, which would be considered a good thing. But specifically why we were there with the research station was to monitor the juvenile salmon. So not the large ones that would swim past the net and not get through. A lot of the smaller salmon make it through the net. And the issue there is that all of these farmed salmon, or Atlantic salmon they're farming in the Pacific, they get given lots of antibiotics. They're in such close proximity that they are like a breeding ground for a lot of the copepod, it's like sea lice.
Yeah.
So for the farm salmon, because they're big and strong, they get given constant food, they're given antibiotics. They're not actually getting too affected by all of the sea lice. But it's when the small juvenile salmon go through these nets and the sea lice find the small wild salmon as a host and they leave the net, is where it becomes problematic, because the sea lice has like grown and become like super steroid sea lice. And then it finds a little weak wild coho or chum salmon and decides to just devour it.
Oh, wow.
That's what we were specifically looking at. There are the cases where the mess at the bottom of the nets is killing all of the life at the bottom, and also things like they would have like seal scarers as well. So they would put a really high frequency noise because you had the seals and the sea lions that would come near the nets, and they'd put those noises out. But actually, there's some research that would suggest that that would deafen the wildlife.
Yeah.
And if it didn't deafen it, the seals were actually learning that was a sound to try and find to get to the salmon. So it was counterintuitive.
So a Pavlovian response.
Again. Yeah.
It's a different dinner bell.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a phenomenal kind of part of a life cycle to observe, and also it sounds quite difficult to observe, these sea lice and how they migrate to, like fish in the wild. Like that sounds like quite a difficult process to document. Did you guys have a lot of success with that?
Well, we were just like capturing content, but it was really impressive to watch. I guess it is quite a monotonous and tedious process. Like they would have to bring a sample in of juvenile salmon and inspect with a microscope and write how many lice they saw.
Yeah, right.
It's not really an efficient way of doing it. But yeah, hats off for them for actually collecting the research.
That's marine biology, isn't it? It's not what we got told in high school. I think a lot of them come into it with this. Yeah, they come into it with this love and this naivety with regards to what their profession actually entails. I'd imagine the other thing they did with, observing and, taking specimens from this population is they must have had a control group to compare, how many lice were in an area where they didn't have captive salmon. But that's a really interesting project to be part of. It would have been cool. And obviously like really good people to be surrounded by while you're cooking up all these crazy dinners and stuff.
Yeah, really interesting mix of people, because it's like, I'd say, well, I wouldn't say us two are very, very academic, but we were living with super, super like science academics.
Yeah.
They're like, the main leader of it had like a PhD on water, so knew everything about water. Wow. The other one was doing a research on salmon, and everything was about salmon. And we were coming in as kind of with an interest in wildlife and sea life, but we didn't have that like academic background. But what we could bring was photography and the video skills. So it was interesting to have conversations about the different things that were. Yeah, across the board.
That sounds like a great experience. I am envious. That was very, very cool. Just moving on to a different subject, and maybe a darker subject. I asked you guys for a couple of talking points and stuff, and you mentioned a recent spearfishing casualty. Can you elaborate?
Yeah. So basically, this was, would you say, about a month ago?
Yeah,
around about a month to 5 weeks ago. So this was with, so basically a friend of mine, James, was coming up to Northumberland from York, all in the north of the UK, to come spearfishing for a weekend. So he came over to mine. The casualty wasn't my friend James, it was something else. But he came up for the weekend and we just had a nice dinner and stuff. And then we planned like a super, super day of going spearfishing up in Scotland, because it takes about an hour to an hour and a half to get to some really good Scottish spearfishing spots from here. So we left super early in the morning, and there was one spot where I had caught quite a few pollock a few weeks ago. So we weren't sure about the visibility, and we went in, checked the spot. The spot was about 10 meters deep roughly, and even getting down to 10 meters, the visibility just wasn't there. So we were wasting our time in that spot. So we thought, okay, we'll drive another 45 minutes north and get to another spot which might have a bit more visibility because it had more running water. It wasn't a super, super clear, flat day, but it wasn't crazy either. It was like borderline surfable, but still spearfishable.
Okay.
So then what happens is we drive up to the spot. This is still early morning. And we get to the car park and we bump into someone we know, a friend of ours at the car park who happens to be spearfishing there. And randomly we get to the same spot. And then we met another guy there who we hadn't met before. And then, so we said hi and everything. And they went out together. They were together and we were doing our thing. So then this is a good spot, surprisingly, in the north, in Scotland for sea bass. And there's not many spots around here where you can get a lot of sea bass, but this one holds a lot of them. So we thought we'd go in. So we went in for about 15, 20 minutes scouting the area. Had quite a few bass coming really close to me, but you couldn't see past your gun. And the issue I had is when the bass were coming in close, the bass were like closer to me than the distance of the gun. So I'd have to try and, even with a 75, try and get them, but it just wasn't working. So we were like, you know what, we'll call it quits, and we'll go back in and go to another spot. Unfortunately, on the way back from going in, we saw one of the floats of the guy, well, one of the two that we met in the car park, and it was the float of the guy that we didn't know. So we just went, as you go past, just to say hi or just see if he's got any fish or anything. We just happened to go past. And then James straight away noticed that something was odd and that he was not in the water. He wasn't like treading water how he should be. He was just kind of floating. So then he shouts over. I'm next to James. We both go over. And we got to him. We did what we could to bring him onto shore. He was in a bad way. He was not responsive, and we tried CPR and our best to bring him back until the paramedics came. But unfortunately, he had passed.
Sorry to ask some callous questions.
Yeah.
Do they think he had a shallow water blackout, or was it a cardiac issue, or what are they?
So I don't actually know what actually happened, because I wasn't told, which is, but I have no connection with him or the family really.
Yeah.
I don't know, but from what I know is where we encountered where he was in about maybe 3 meters of water, 3.5 meters of water, not too far from the shore either. And the visibility was really bad. So you couldn't see past your gun. I feel like I don't think it would be shallow water blackout in a territory, because it wouldn't take long to get to the bottom, and the spot we found him in isn't really, it's like the entrance of when you would go spearfishing. It didn't look, it's not like a fishy spot as such. And from what I know is that he had a lot of experience. He was a very experienced person. I'd say maybe in his mid-50s.
So
about
potentially a cardiac issue.
Potentially. Yeah. So that was, chilling. Yeah, pretty full on. And it kind of reinforced the, like, well, for me at least, even just the safety side of things. Like, the thing is like, it's, even if you're with someone or with a buddy, I think I've even heard on some of your podcasts say that you essentially, a lot of the time, you are actually diving. Even if you're next to someone, you're still diving alone when you're doing that dive. There's so many things that, like, you have to be conscious of, and even, I guess, how you're feeling before you get into the water. All of those little niggles. If you've got if you're not feeling fit and well to go in, then it's really, you should have a second thought about it. Having a visual on your buddy, having things like the right communication devices if you need it, just really hit home to even doing like a full first aid course. I guess we were lucky that I was with James, who's part of the Yorkshire Mountain Rescue team. So he was really good, and he was really versed in all of the like first aid side of things for CPR and what needs doing. We even got a defibrillator, and he knew exactly what to do with it.
He had a defib on site.
Where we were, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So got the wetsuit off his chest and hooked the pads up, and did it actually administer a shock to him, or yeah, okay.
No. So yeah. But it's a big learning that's kind of hit home for like my kind of reality checking. And
it's such a self-awareness thing as well, isn't it? It's such an individual sport. And like with scuba diving, for example, you would normally go with a group and have a buddy check you over, or have a dive leader saying you're not fit to dive. But I guess it's that self-awareness. Like you've got to be good enough, feeling good enough to be able to get in the water. And
because that's very true, isn't it? With scuba diving, you have the full check that you have to do before the screening, but there's no real like well, I guess maybe that's a thing that we should all do more often if we can, do like a bit of a self-screening, even if it's like you feel like something's off, you can't really pinpoint it.
We've all had that and still gone diving too, though. It's,
I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. Yeah.
I mean, life is temporary and stuff happens, you know. But but it is nice to try and draw takeaways wherever we can from stuff.
Yeah. Sure.
I've had another guy over here. He had a cardiac issue, ended up getting medevaced out, and then he was kind of, you know, really vocal about telling everyone to have a defib on board their boats. It's a wet environment and it's a complex environment. People with their clothing and stuff like that, you're going to cut someone's wetsuit open. Then you've got to dry them off. Then you've got to place the pads in the correct position. The units corrode in salt water, and they have such a short lifespan. They're a relatively expensive item. You know, your potential number of use cases to justify the purchase of them and maintenance of them, like all those questions kind of come up as well. But it's something I've thought a bit about because it does happen, but it's just it's kind of a I don't know. You can't sort of manage and control for every risk, can you?
Yeah, totally.
I think it was just about for you, like getting back in the water as soon as possible as well.
Yeah. So we got back in about a week and a bit after.
Yeah, I was not happy about it.
Yeah.
It's not nice weather outside of the water.
The water's at 11 degrees when we went in last.
It's just the car park.
So, it's getting ready in the car park's the coldest part. It's in and out of the water is the worst. When you're actually in it, it's not too bad, but yeah.
Alan, do you take hot water in a bottle, or I'm taking it you're using an open cell wetsuit?
Yeah, we don't take hot water. You can take
a thermos with hot water in it, and then put your lube in your wetsuit, shake it up, and then add a bit of hot water. It makes it a bit easier. I don't know how long it will stay hot.
Why have I not done that?
Yeah.
We do it here, and it's not even proper cold.
Yeah, he does the packing. It's really great. I'm just like a child that comes along.
At this point, maybe, but I'm sure it'll change in the future. Killshot spear guns have much more than just wicked, reliable, awesome timber spear guns. They've got merch, charters, more, and they service gear out in Islamorada, the Florida Keys. Ed Martin is the passionate aficionado making some absolute works of art, simple, reliable timber spear guns that more than get the job done. I know when I shoot my spear gun, I'm looking for reliability. Ed Martin's got you covered at killshotspearguns.com. Check it out, killshotspearguns.com. This podcast is brought to you by aqualite.com.au. This is the best solution, bar none, for staying hydrated in the ocean. If you're a Spearo, it's an absolute no-brainer. It's a game changer. If you're doing extended trips and the cramp starts to set in and the old body's telling you, hey, that's enough, just get hydrated and it will save you a whole heap of woe. Get Aqualite at aqualite.com.au. It's scientific rehydration that Spearos know and trust. I know because one works there, and that's why we've set up this discount code for you, 10% off when you use the code Noob Spearo at aqualite.com.au. Check it out. Australian-made hydration products tailored for Spearos and a whole bunch of other people that suffer from dehydration too. But check it out at aqualite.com.au. Use the code Noob Spearo to save 10%. A lot of dry training programs are not really designed for spearfishing. That's why I have got together with a bunch of legends to put together a 50-day prep program to get you in decent shape for spearfishing. It's 50 days, 100% focused on action. It's a cross-training program designed to put you in the absolute best shape to go spearfishing and make the most of a trip of a lifetime. The program is designed to be performed in 3 different modalities, so no matter where you are with time, availability, and equipment, you will be able to be more spear ready by utilizing this program. Check it out, noobspearo.com/spear ready. Helen, for you, like when you look at Pierre going spearfishing and you think about your own journey into it, in some ways it can be quite intimidating because you're like, oh, wow, there's going to be so much for me to learn. For you, like, what are some of the biggest things you've learned already with what you've done? And what do you have to learn next in order to make a real good go of it, so to speak?
Yeah, sure. Baby steps. Like initially, when I first went in the water with Pierre, I just thought he was a superhuman and a fish, but it would really worry me that he would just disappear for minutes at a time and not surface. So I was like, oh, wow, I'm going to have to join in if this is going to last long term. So I just had some real initial issues with equalization.
Yep.
I think it's because I'm quite sinusy. So I couldn't get down past 3 or 4 meters for quite a while. But hardcore practice with equalization has gotten me deeper and deeper. So that's been, I guess, a really satisfying learning curve for me. And it's just so cool to learn that your body is so much more capable than you think it is. And it's such a mental process. Even with static breath holds, like I find that so satisfying. Even going to the swimming pool now, like I just love swimming underwater for as long as possible.
Yeah.
And just enjoying those little stages that when you go to do a dive makes everything work a lot better if you work on all those little things individually. And I have found it really helpful to have the camera actually, because I've always had a camera. I've always done photography or videography. So that has distracted my mind from maybe the dangers of diving down because I've had something to concentrate on.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that will be the same with a gun.
Yep.
So having the gun, you're not really worried about the fact you're so far underwater because you're thinking about dinner.
I'm the one that's got to be worried.
Yeah, I've also got a really experienced buddy. So that helps with risk and fear.
It 100% does too. Makes you feel more confident. You touched on a few interesting things there. With your EQ issue, like I think it's fairly common, like you mentioned being sinusy. Another thing is people will often have like not a lot of pliability in their eustachian tubes. And simply by just equalizing a lot over a period of time, it can make them more pliable. Or do you think that that's what your issue was?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's just like the amount of times I'd done it. Like I did a skydive when I was 18 and the pressure change in the sky caused me to go deaf for about a day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I've always been aware of like this sinus issue and it was really, really painful to start with. But yeah, it's been just like going in on maybe a weekly or bi-weekly basis and just getting a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. And just honestly, just from practice. Also, another thing, I don't know if it's related, but Pierre mentioned about consuming a lot of dairy and that having an effect. So I definitely cut out some dairy, which might have helped.
Dairy can make your mucus thicker. Like some people think that it makes you produce more, but what it actually does is just makes your mucus thicker. And then if anything's sticky, like in your sinus or like that tends to add to, or amplify some of the issues that you can experience. So that's a good insight too. So plan moving forward when you're not shooting a documentary. You guys sound like you take a camera everywhere because that's part of who you are. Will it be, Pierre, you guys share a camera rig and share a spear gun and then you kind of just switch? Is that sort of the game plan moving forward?
I think we'll probably go with 2 guns, 1 camera. Gun each. Put the camera on the float when we both need to start shooting. But then, do a little mix up.
Yeah.
And then hopefully we can get you shooting some fish next season.
Yeah, I feel like that's my core focus next, to actually learn learn the sport.
And then I'm going to be a lot more hands-on with the camera work, because this summer was a lot about getting the footage to make the film. So I had to be, I guess I was the main subject in it. So I was doing a lot, which is a good thing. I was doing a lot of fishing, but I want to get a bit more hands-on with the camera and do more camera work and try and not just do things that are Spearo related, but try and show the local people here what's on their doorstep, because so many people here haven't had the opportunity to see what's out there.
Yeah. I mean, another cool little mini documentary could be like the journey for Helen's first, you know, like pollock or whatever, you know, like, and then you could, you know, film that full hunt, and then obviously taking it home, gutting it and bleeding it in the water, then whatever you prepare with it at home. That'd be a cool standalone thing as well. And you guys obviously know how to tell a story really well, so that'll work awesome.
That would be good.
There's always so many ideas.
Pinchy lobster.
Those lobster you guys have are wicked, I reckon. They don't seem like a lot of meat on them though. Like, is that fair or
no? So when you compare them to like lobsters you probably get in Australia or in Asia or even like in North America, they're not like monsters. But yeah, they're pretty cute. But they're really, really good eating.
Yeah.
The cold water lobsters just taste so good.
I reckon too.
They're not huge, but like I'd say to have a good meal, you have one each. And we tend to like, I know traditional is to kind of boil them, but I like to kind of split them in half. Garlic, butter, parsley, run that over, sometimes open fire, and then
chili
up to 8 minutes or something, and then let it cool down, and then just enjoy.
You're speaking my language, Pierre. You're speaking my language.
Yeah.
He does it for you.
Yeah. But that's what we want to do as well, is with Tide to Table, just show like small insights as to how you can cook something, or just show people like, oh, you have a lobster on the doorstep and it will cost you time and effort and knowledge. But once you get it, then it's priceless.
Do you speak Chinese, Pierre?
I wish. Okay. My mum tried to get me to learn when I was really young, but I was learning French at the time as well. I speak fluent French, but no Chinese.
I lived there for a year, and I really have a deep appreciation for the culture and food. When you do you make a lot of Chinese inspired dishes like Sichuan is obviously like a really colorful and spicy flavor palette. I really love Sichuan cooking. Do you draw from that sometimes?
Yeah. So I do a lot of Chinese cooking even with seafood. So with a lot of the bigger prize fish, I like to be a bit more traditional and just like in the oven, some onions, garlic, butter, parsley, taste the fish, feel the fish, love it. But then with maybe if you catch like some smaller fish, then I'd like to tend to steam those with like some ginger, coriander, mix in some garlic and soy sauce, and then do it on a bed of rice and include more like an Asian feel to it.
Yep.
So
nice.
I do like a mix of like traditional French and Chinese is what I like to mix. And the best thing about the UK is the ingredients are so good here, but we're just not shown, and we don't really know it and we don't cherish it. Because even if you go to, like my dad, he's from the Basque Country in France.
Yeah.
And even if you go to some of the supermarkets there, you will see like Cornish court crab or Cornish court lobster, because they market it as being a premium product because it's caught from the UK because the waters are colder there. And people in Spain and in France are like, oh yeah, we really want some of that British seafood. Whereas in the UK, we're just like, meh, and we don't even have any access to it, and we have no connection to the food we have.
Excuse my ignorance. The Basque Country is sort of the bordering land between France and Spain, isn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So the Basque Country used to be a country in itself, and then it was split across Spain and France. So the French side, you have like Bayonne, Biarritz, and then
Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port.
Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, yeah.
Yeah,
wow,
I walked the Camino a few years ago.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So
how was that?
It was amazing. Like, it's a really cool part of the world, yeah. I really like, I don't know a lot about French seafood cooking, though, to be honest. I kind of know a little bit about northern Spain and pulpo. Yeah. Like, I love the way they do octopus.
Yeah.
But what's something uniquely French, like, that I would be unlikely to know unless I had lived there for a while? Like, what's a uniquely French style seafood dish that's accessible for everyone?
like probably in French it's a moule marinière, which would be just pretty much mussels, steamed mussels. And that's just mussels cooked in a white wine sauce. Sometimes you have it with cream, sometimes no cream, just with onions, garlic and parsley. A lot of the time French fish is just onions, garlic, parsley, but being very clean
very
and
pure
and really cherishing the actual ingredient. Whereas Spanish, I kind of like a little bit more. We have like pulpo a la gallega, which is the octopus that's sliced on a bed of potatoes, which is cooked in chicken broth with a little bit of
I remember this one.
Pimenton on top of it. It's amazing. Drenched in amazing olive oil as well.
Yeah. The culinary journey, like it was an 800-kilometer walk. Like some of the parts, the food's pretty average, to be honest. Like there might be 300K you walk where the food you're just like, man, I want to go back to Australia or New Zealand. Like,
really? Yeah.
But then you come into the next bit and it's just completely different. It's like a relatively small area, but it's quite evident when you're walking because you see these huge culinary differences. And yeah, I like it. So with your mussels, right? So you are cooking them in this white wine. Are you just cooking them until they open? Is that cooked? And then what does the process look like from there?
So would tend to cook them until they open and then just leave them for like a few minutes, like turn the heat off, let the natural steam just do its thing. And I feel like by doing that, you won't overcook the mussels, but you will still make sure that they're fully cooked. And then, don't know if it's true or not, but I tend to not eat the ones that are fully closed. I don't know if that's a myth, but I'm going with it. And then just discard the ones that are fully closed, and then the ones that are open, just enjoy with the sauce. A nice baguette if you have one.
Yeah, cool. And Helen, just returning to you. So you started with this grand vision of batter everything, fry everything. I may be making fun of you. Like I feel like so many people here are the same. Where are you at with your culinary journey? What's something you love to cook these days?
I just want to shoot, process, scale, fillet, cook a fish from start to finish. That's my next goal. The first fish I gutted was horrifying. It came from really deep, so it was really bloated. I was wearing a really nice white t-shirt and I just stabbed it in the stomach and it exploded all over me. So I'm just desensitizing. But I would really like to just do the whole process from start to finish with something just really simple, like a pollock. That would be a great win for me.
And to avoid the white t-shirt saga, would you likely gut that fish in the water?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was doing it on a dock.
Yeah, it didn't help as well that I gave you a venomous rockfish to gut as your first one as well. Venomous spines. And they'd brought it up from deep, so their swim bladders start to open up. So then you got the full explosion.
Wow.
You did it.
Good setup here. That's a what do they call that? Rapid desensitization.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
I think that's an authentic journey. Like, it's funny when you take someone along and you've been doing a little while, Pierre, and like Helen's coming along, she's benefiting from your experience, but in a lot of ways, she's still got to learn all of the stuff for herself as well. So it's cool though. It's I don't know. I always just say, just enjoy the journey, eh? Like there's because a lot of the stuff you only do first one time, and so if you kind of just remember the stuff, it makes it very memorable. I took a guy out 2 weeks ago and he shot his first fish. And he's a very thoughtful, academic kind of guy. And when he got to the surface with this fish, he had a real moment of like that ethical awareness of like, wow, I just shot thing and took its life. And for him, it was quite a big deal. For most of us to go spearfishing, we're just kind of like, you don't get dismissive, but you sort of just take it all for granted that there's a cost to what we're doing. But to watch him go through that in slow motion was quite rewarding for me, and it reminded me of all of those things that I learned myself. And you're embarking on that yourself, Helen. So Pierre and you are going to have a great time doing that.
Yeah, it's such an exciting new thing to do, especially in the UK, because that was my problem moving back to the UK.
Yeah.
Where's my excitement going to come from? But I definitely underestimated this as a thing to bring me joy and purpose.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I think it's interesting you say about that, Isaac, about the guy that you brought over and he shot his fish, because it's almost like the door only opens once for that moment, and once it's open, then it just becomes a shot another fish. But there's that initial part. It's like the leap of faith that moment just exists, and it's like unlocking all these little doors inside your brain.
Well, you have to come to and you have to come to terms with it. And you know, like a lot of vegans have had that moment themselves, and that's why they've gone down a specific path in life. And you've got to respect that choice. Even if you don't, it's not one that you would make yourself. At least they were consciously aware that to take an animal's life, there's a cost. And so you better be prepared to pay it, you know. And I think it is part of the journey, you know. And it's cool though. Like, and you get that vicarious sense of it. You remember these things when you take someone else and teach them, and you watch them experience all they're learning for themselves. So it's cool. I'm betting if you have been spearing a while, you probably love tough gear. And if you're anything like me, you love tough gear even more than most, because I am a rough bugger. And that's why I love the Sea Sack by Old Man Blue. It's a catch bag that can tow a boat. And that's not vernacular. This has actually really happened. It's not regular product testing, but it's being done. The Sea Sack is absolutely made tough right here in Australia. It's got a unique groper-style mouth of the bag, and it's so easy to jam lobster in. And once they're in, they're not coming out. That is until you're on the boat, where you can release the stopper, and pretty much even with 15 lobster, they just come straight out the bottom of the bag. Then you lock the stopper up and you're ready to go again. The Sea Sack tows through the water like nothing else. No other catch bag moves through the water as easily as the Sea Sack does. That is until it's full of lobster, and then nothing seems to tow that well. But it's an absolute wicked innovation. The Sea Sack by Old Man Blue. Check it out at oldmanblue.com.au. Again, if you want a super tough catch bag that will stand the test of time, Australian made, check out the Sea Sack at oldmanblue.com.au. There's that old chestnut, never drink coffee before going diving. I don't know about you, but I break the rule every time. And once you've had a dog and gun coffee, you might find it hard not to break that rule as well. Dog and gun coffee are specialty beans sourced from the best coffee growing regions from around the world and roasted by proper coffee nerds intent on fueling outdoor nuts like you and me. If you want to give Dog and Gun coffee a crack, I can personally recommend the preloaded drip filters. Open them up, they sit on top of your coffee cup, add boiling water, and then whatever else you like. For me, it's milk and two. Try them at dogandguncoffee.com.au and use the code NOOB10 to save 10%. That's right, use the code NOOB10 to save 10% at dogandguncoffee.com.au. Check it out, legends. Hey, legends, I am always on the lookout to plan awesome trips and charters. And to do that, I need actionable info and people that have signed up and ready to rock. If you would like to be part of a Noob Spearo charter, trip or course, go to spearfishingcourses.com.au, register your interest. Simply put, if I have the numbers and the interest, we can make a trip happen in your part of the world. Wherever you want to go, I know there can be like-minded frothers. Go and register your interest at spearfishingcourses.com.au/interested. Again, that's spearfishingcourses.com.au/interested. Let's get on a course, charter, or trip together soon. Where to from here, guys? Tell me, tiedtotable.co.uk. On the socials, is it tied to table pretty much everything?
Yeah. Tied to Table UK on Instagram.
Okay.
And then Tied to Table on YouTube.
Yeah.
We're just, I guess, at the stages of like growing an audience. And we've got such a huge bank of footage from this summer to turn into mini stories for now. And then drafting the book. We have so many outrageous ideas that would just be embarrassing to share with you. But I don't really know where it's going to take us, but it feels like we've got a good purpose and a good thing to share with the world for now. We were even speaking about something interesting this morning that was like all the Chinese herbal medicine is often really coastal related, isn't it?
A lot of it is. A lot of it controversially, or maybe I can say this because I'm Chinese, but a lot of the times they like to take a bit of everything. But although they might take a lot of bulb, and we all do it, but a lot of Chinese medicine has a lot of truth to it as well. And I feel like there's a lot of things in it that we could, even as Spearos, be like, oh, okay, this thing comes from the sea. We are in contact with that thing, and kind of broaden the knowledge of not just shooting a fish, but thinking about all of the different things you can potentially forage underwater because of the beneficial medicinal properties that it has. And we were thinking, okay, is that another angle that we have to play with, for us to discover as well? Because the thing is like we can go out there and try and find all these different things and work out if they're good. But with a lot of, like, for instance, like Chinese medicine, they've already done all the research and they're already doing it. It's just about contextualizing it in a way that if it aligns with what we would think would be good and sustainable and actually have like human benefits, why not expose those things a bit more?
Yeah, because there's huge trends in the UK at the moment towards like holistic well-being. So
I think people are, there's the shortcomings of our own sort of Western medicine and treating the symptoms rather than, going for root cause stuff. And Chinese medicine is quite easily dismissed due to some of the more outlandish claims like, eating parts of animals because they're aphrodisiac or whatever. And then it tends, we smear the whole lot with the same brush, or we tar the whole lot with the same brush because we're like, oh, that's stupid. They do A, B, or C, but equally so you can do the same thing of our Western system. So I think it's a great idea. It's powerful. Like pull some of the best stuff out, look for evidence-based stuff, and then everyone can learn together. That's cool.
Yeah, we're basically going to make a seahorse Viagra empire.
No, she's trying to tell me something.
There's nothing like splitting up a breeding pair and, for vaguely therapeutic benefits. Yeah, awesome, guys.
It's interesting with the seahorses, though. I think it's one of the only animals where I think the male is pregnant.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's interesting.
The animal kingdom's weird in some ways. Like, over here, emus are the males are the ones that roost on the eggs, and then the females off.
Oh.
Yeah, so they bring them to. I think maybe they spend a large part of the day keeping them warm and stuff. I don't know enough about it, but you talk to farmers sometimes and people of the land, and they're again easily dismissed people because they farm or whatever, but then they have such a high level of intelligence about the natural world. And you guys are both intelligent and thoughtful people. I can see you capturing a hell of a lot of this stuff in Tide to Table. And I think it's going to be a cool journey to watch and come alongside. So tidetotable.co.uk, Tide to Table on YouTube and Tide to Table UK on Instagram. Go and follow these guys. Helen and Pierre, taking over the world and convincing us how to live better lives and more in touch with our natural world. It's cool. It's a great mission, guys.
Thank you
very much.
Yeah. All good. Pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. You too. Thanks for having us.
Well, legends, what did you think of that? Helen and Pierre, two very thoughtful people, and I thought a pretty rad episode, particularly at the front end of 2025, getting us reconnecting with our food, reconnecting with ourselves, very much part of this lifestyle that you're a part of. And I hope you are frothing, and this episode got you even more psyched, particularly maybe about preparing your seafood in some new and thoughtful ways. It's always a challenge getting out of your comfort zone with some cooking. I'd encourage you to get out there, try something new. I have been in the last 6 months and I'm enjoying it. So the temptation to put another cookbook out there is almost there. But if you haven't got it already, 99 Spare Recipes, it's available in every good spearfishing retailer, up on Amazon. It's available on noobspearo.com. Go check that out. Hey, I was also going to say, with Sundays, Sal and Spear, Eckhart from Salt Sessions and I, longtime friends, we've been running this trip this is our third year together running it. This year, we went bold and we're running 2 back-to-back. So they are 5-day, 4-night sail and spear trips out beyond the Whitsunday Islands. So you sail from Airlie Beach out through the Whitsunday Islands. They're beautiful and picturesque, but we go straight through them. Sometimes we have a little stop off, but most of the time we're just super keen to get out to the Great Barrier Reef, start exploring some new reef systems and shoot some fish for dinner. And that's just day one. And every day it's just you're surrounded by a very much a group of like-minded people. It's almost like a backpackers spearfishing charter. It's if you're like one of those 5-star kind of guys, like, you know, you want room service, this is probably not the trip for you. But if you're like, you know, just wanting to maybe get in, this is your very first charter and you would love the benefit of having guides around because, you know, there's 2 people in the water to 1 guide. It's a really good trip for that. Super cheap. It's about 3,000 Australian dollars to get in there. And yeah, come and join us. Check it out, spearfishingcourses.com.au. I'd love to have you aboard the Whitsunday Sail and Spear trip. Hey, massive thanks to Helen and Pierre. Next week, we're going to talk more seafood. In fact, if you're hungry, I don't even know if you should listen to this one. It's 5 actionable seafood meals with Honky Outdoors craftsman, bespoke craftsman Ben Honky. He's an absolute legend and absolutely lives and breathes this stuff. So a couple of frothy seafood flavored episodes for you to kick off your February. So come back for that one in 2 weeks. Otherwise, legends, thanks for sharing the podcast with your mates. Always appreciate it. Always goes a long way. And lots of good episodes penciled in for 2025. So stick with me. We're not far off 300 episodes. Oh, hey, last but not least, Patreon. The legends putting fuel in the Noob Spearo outboard are doing so on a month-by-month basis. It's really simple now. You just pay month to month. You can get them for as little as $3 a month, and every little bit of fuel in the Noob Spearo outboard helps. Go to patreon.com/Noob Spearo. There's some wicked bonuses too. Like every level of patron supporter get a unique email every month. It's got 1 frothy seafood recipe in it, 1 actionable tip to improve your spearfishing, and sometimes there's a frothy deal in there as well, maybe a deep discount on some Noob Spearo gear. Check that out, patreon.com/Noob Spearo. Otherwise, guys, I've been blithering on and on. I just love it. You know what I'm like. Noob Spearo podcast. Here we go in 1 week with Ben Honky. I'll see you there. Hey guys, this episode brought to you by Astard Roller Pole Spears. Astard is a brand rooted in craftsmanship and tradition, inspired by the Japanese freedivers, the Armour. Their logo, a hand-drawn star, symbolizes starting from a single point, exploring and returning safely, capturing the essence of their journey and design philosophy. Founded by Adam, who spent 15 years in southern Japan, but originally from West Australia. He has a background in aviation, digital, and photography. And him and his lifelong friend Kim, and a mechanical genius herself, founded Astard, which embodies a passion for quality, innovation, and versatility. Check them out at astard.co. They have a roller pole spear that will make your head spin. I'll give you the hot tip. Check it out at astard.co. Use the code Noob Spearo. Have free shipping anywhere on the planet. You can't get any better than that. Go to astard.co. Check out their roller pole spear. You need one in your arsenal today. Check it out. Use the code Noob Spearo for free shipping anywhere in the world. Some days when you've maybe shot those 4 or 5 fish that you came for, might be time to pull out the pole spear, jump back in and rediscover that passion and learning that you had right at the start of your journey. This is one of the best tools for becoming a better hunter. Check it out, astard.co. Are you US based, looking for freediving, spearfishing gear? Neptonics is the best. Their online website, so easy to use. If you've got any questions, Jerry and the team answer questions via phone, email. Anyway, they've got an easy contact form on the site. These guys are absolute legends, and if they sell it, they believe in it, they back it, they use it themselves. It's tough gear that works. Visit neptonics.com. Use the code NOOB10 to save 10% on any order at neptonics.com. That's right, use the code NOOB10, N-O-O-B 10 on your next order. Save 10% at neptonics.com. Today's Noob Spearo podcast is brought to you in partnership with Adreno. Live it, breathe it with the world's largest dive store. Huge range of equipment, always growing, always changing. They are the world's largest dive store. They are available just about everywhere. They have hassle-free returns, massive range of equipment, price match guarantee, And you can check them out online. You can even use the code Noob Spearo to save $20 on every purchase over $200 at adreno.com.au. Check them out. Boom.